Hey, what's up y'all? My name is Millennial Smark and I'm back at it again with another video. Lots of news to go around. So, as you guys know, Alexa Bliss returned to the Royal Rumble, right? She came back to the Royal Rumble last Saturday. Now, earlier reports suggested that Alexa Bliss was not supposed to be at the Royal Rumble. Apparently, there were some contract disputes. Apparently, they were far apart on money. They weren't really meeting each other's standards. And apparently she wasn't going to be in the Royal Rumble this weekend, as we thought. Now, to be fair, Insider was the first one to break this news. They were the first ones I seen. I looked it up. Apparently they were the first ones to break it, right? But it was Dave Meltzer quoted and corroborating what they said with his own words, stating that they were indeed far apart on money. To everybody's shock and awe, Dave Meltzer ended up being wrong. Insider ended up being wrong. There are a lot of people with egg all over their faces, to the degree that you had the commentators, Wade Barrett and Michael Cole in particular, mocking them. And this was Dave Meltzer's explanation, because you had this guy named Danny Hernandez, one of the random guys on Twitter, going after him. Just like we all knew Alexa Bliss, except you, making fun of the fact that we all knew that Alexa Bliss was going to show up or something along the lines of that. But Dave Meltzer, obviously being the contrarian that he is, nothing wrong being a contrarian, but when you're Dave Meltzer and a contrarian, that's always a bad thing, got it wrong again. Dave said, "Hate to break your heart, but it was reported before the show started and I had read it, but it wasn't my story. It wasn't even hidden that she was there." Danny replied back with, "You reported, and I quote, they were far apart. And then, come to find out, they weren't. You were the only one to report that, Dave. It's fine. You aren't the premier WWE reporter. Your sources don't care about you and fed you wrong info. Your AEW, I guess, feeds you some." Which is true. Dave got played like a fucking fiddle. And it's not the first time, and probably won't be the last, because it seems like Triple H, because AEW, it seems like they're unfortunately behind the ball on this. It seems like some of their workers, like Chris Jericho, for example, works hand to hand legitimately with the Wrestling Observer newsletter and actually feeds them information. Not me saying it, that's what CM Punk suggested. And also the Young Bucks too, obviously. So it's like they might be behind the ball, but it seems like WWE wants to play the dirt sheets. It seems like WWE will actually feed them intentionally what they want to feed them in order to promote a story because they know it's a lot easier to work people if you actually promote it through the internet, which is genius. I can't say that they're wrong, right? But this is an update from Dave Meltzer talking about the whole situation, right? I'll leave that link down in the description box below also. In an update, Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer believes the dispute news was a swerve by the company, and multiple sources indicated to him Bliss had indeed signed a new contract. And I quote from Dave Meltzer, "The gist on Alexa Bliss was that her contract, because of the freezing and time off and everything, it was not up, but it was about to be up. So they didn't want to debut her and then have the contract up, because then she'd kind of have them under a barrel. It's kind of awkward to start someone, put them on TV, and then if they don't come to terms and you don't have a new contract, they disappear. They just figured, get the new contract done. And I was told that the contract didn't get done. And then I'm told, well, the contract did get done. I'm suspicious of that story. But after, I still have heard the story from multiple people tonight, including during the match, right after it happened. So you mean they lied to you, Dave? I mean, granted, you said that outright, but I mean, you're still trying to give an explanation. All you had to say was, dude, they played you like a fucking fiddle. They did. They played you. And that's fine to be played. That's fine. But this is what I'm saying when it comes to the dirt sheets nowadays. There's a reason why I didn't come right out and talk about the Alexa Bliss stuff. Bro, I got Twitter. I got notifications. I'm following all the dirt sheets for the most part, just so I can get those notifications so I can be one of the first people on YouTube to talk about it. As soon as I seen that Alexa Bliss contract shit, no way I'm talking about that. I seen PW Insider as the first ones to break it, and then I see Dave Meltzer corroborate it. As soon as I seen Dave Meltzer's name on it, with all due respect, I don't have to like the guy at all. I'm sorry, I don't have to like the guy. But if it's not Sean Ross Sapp breaking the news, I'm not going to report on it. And mind you, from an opinionated standpoint, I think Sean's a douchebag. But as far as reporting is considered, he's way more reliable than a Dave Meltzer. If I don't see Sean talk about it, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. I don't care. If Dave is giving his sentiments on a story and it's not corroborated initially by Sean Ross Sapp or Fightful, I don't give it the time of day. Dave has made way too many fucking mistakes for me to want to do something like that. And mind you, from a personal standpoint, I don't give a fuck about Dave Meltzer. I actually hate Sean Ross Sapp on a personal level more than I do Dave Meltzer, which is not really existent because Dave's never really done anything to, shred my name. But from a professionalism standpoint, no, Sean is way more reliable than Dave Meltzer. I'm telling you, as a person who has to do this all the time for his channel, Sean is way more reliable than Dave Meltzer. Which brings me up to the most recent news with Dave Meltzer. And this is this whole Drew McIntyre story that's going on right now. So you're probably wondering to yourself right now, I had like 4 or 5 people in the comment section ask me to talk about this story. And there's a reason why I never really talked about it to begin with. Because I learned that Dave Meltzer put his stamp of approval on this. Now, there are a lot of wrestling news sites coming out, and they're now starting to corroborate it and also insinuate that there's another person involved in all this, which we'll talk about in a minute. But considering the fact that it was Dave that talked about it, or one of the first people to talk about it, I'm very hesitant. I'm very, 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 very hesitant, and especially because it's Drew McIntyre, and we know how much he likes to work. So the report says, a new report has reiterated claims that Drew McIntyre was unhappy following the men's 2025 Royal Rumble match, while suggesting that McIntyre may be heading for a WrestleMania showdown with Damian Priest. The Scottish Warrior was said to have left the Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis in a rage, upset that his elimination at the hands of Priest was bungled due to somebody trying to get themselves over at the expense of the match itself. According to the Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer, McIntyre was not the only Royal Rumble participant who felt this way about that particular, as yet unnamed, talent, although a report from PW Insider suggests it may have been LA Knight. So, what I'm suggesting right now before I continue on is that the 2 people who are corroborating this are the same 2 people who got the Alexa Bliss story wrong. Keep that in mind. Per Melsport, Drew had to be calmed down by family members when he got backstage after the Rumble. Part of the 39-year-old's frustration may have been that he is being programmed with Priest at Mania, with a Mel Sports source describing the bout as a nothing match. According to the report, McIntyre believes he is due a more prominent feud given the strength of his work across 2024. Priest cost McIntyre the WWE World Heavyweight Championship by cashing in on him following McIntyre's victory over Seth Rollins on Night 2 of WrestleMania 40. The 2 men then wrestled for the title in the main event of Clash at the Castle, Scotland, with Priest emerging victorious. Now, if you ask me the other person, if this happens to be a true story, I doubt it, but I'm going to presume logically, maybe just being a little bit more consistent here, it might be Damian Priest, who might be the other person, quote unquote, who's upset along with McIntyre, if this story is true regarding LA Knight. Now, I did go back to go watch the Royal Rumble, try to pinpoint what the fuck happened. Was there anything that could have been out of the ordinary that would have set both guys off? Nothing really seemed out of the ordinary. The only thing that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not sure if it was planned, because Jey Uso did go back and forth with him, was the yeet in the yeah spot. That's the only thing that kind of seems kind of out of the ordinary in regards to a big spot and involving LA Knight, because it did go for a little bit longer than I was expecting now that I'm going back to go watch it with this new frame of mind. And it was kind of awkward. I felt that way during the Royal Rumble also live. I didn't talk about it because, you know, maybe I just thought to myself it wasn't that big of a deal. But now going back and hearing the story, Drew did get eliminated pretty unceremoniously. What was he, like number 7? Like one of the, like in the bottom 7, and he got eliminated around that time frame. So that did seem a little bit weird. I'm not gonna lie, but at the same time, just keep it in your mind that the same people that got the Alexa Bliss story wrong are the same people who are corroborating each other in regards to this incident happening. Not to mention, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to recall, didn't Dave Meltzer, wasn't he one of the people who essentially talked about the whole Drew McIntyre meltdown stuff 2 years ago when Punk came back at Survivor Series? He was the one that broke that news, right? When Punk returned, that Drew McIntyre was backstage and he was frustrated and he was doing this and he was doing that and he was doing this and he was doing that. That's what Meltzer also broke. Now, like I touched on earlier, I want you guys to remember that Drew McIntyre is one of those kind of people that goes on social media. He trolls a lot. When I say he trolls a lot. He trolls more than the average wrestling fan on Twitter when it comes to the actual wrestlers and themselves. Also, I would just like to remind you that Triple H on the press conference made note of the fact that the dirt sheets get it wrong and not to listen to the dirt sheets. Now, obviously, it's one of those deals where it's like you hear that all the time. It just becomes somewhat of a nothing burger nowadays, right? But at the same time, I find it very, very conspicuous. You see this, and then the Alexa Bliss stuff, and then the Wade Barrett, Michael Cole line, which you got to think Triple H got in their ear during Gorilla and told them all this. What I'm saying is, just be mindful of your surroundings. Now, for me personally, especially after all the stuff that went down with Britt Baker, I'm very, very, very cautious. I'm steadfast as far as the news I talk about on my channel anymore. If it's not opinionated, or if it is fact, but it has to be happening in real time, directly in front of my face. Whether that's a quote from a superstar that can be cited, whether that's something that I can see for my own, directly in front of my face, like the fight that happened with Joey Janela, anything like that, I'll talk about it in real time. But if I hear anything in regards to, whoa, there's a backstage stuff going on and you know, yada 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 yada, if it's intriguing enough, maybe I might talk about it in regards to it being a rumor that just broke. But when you see something like this, you have to at least be steadfast. You have to. And you have to see it for what it's worth. You have to see the superstars who are involved in all this. You have to go back and actually corroborate some of the events that actually occurred in real time at that time with the reports that are being said. You have to take the past into consideration and talk about their credentials in regards to the stories that they reported on. And unfortunately, none of this meets the criteria as to something that you should be focused on at the moment. Now, going into WrestleMania season, obviously we're going to see whether or not this whole thing pans out with Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest. Who knows? Maybe all of this could be done in order to build up, some steam for that in particular. Ever thought about that? Ever thought about the fact that everything that you're hearing being reported by a Dave Meltzer and by a PW Insider could be what's being used as the light in order to bloom up this so-called feud apparently with him and Damian Priest. This is what they're doing in order to build that up. And Dave Meltzer, being the useful idiot that he is doing the thing that WWE would probably have to pay thousands of dollars to do in order to get over on social media, while understanding at the same time there's a good shot that is going to be harmed because there's an element of kayfabe attached to it being essentially exasperated by WWE. But no, when it's Dave Meltzer going out there, when it's the dirt she's going out there, oh, now it's real all of a sudden. No, I'm a mark in the end of the day. I'm a mark for the wrestlers. I'm a mark for the business. I love all of it. I get it. I've fallen for stories a lot. But essentially, there has to be a time where you have to sit back and you have to say to yourself, okay, let's see how this shit plays out. If Britt Baker has taught me anything, it's shut the fuck up and just sit back and wait. If Dave Meltzer has taught me anything, it's sit back and shut the fuck up and wait. We'll see how it pans out. We'll see whether or not this story is legitimately true. But I guess that's just me. I speak for myself and only for myself. But I like to hear some of your opinions and how you speak in regards to the situation. Do you think Dave Meltzer should be given the shit that he's given right now? Never mind his history. Never mind the fact that he corroborated someone's actual reporting with his own reporting, with actual quotes in itself, right? Do you think after seeing the situation happen with Alexa Bliss, you should be sitting back and saying to yourself, rubbing your chin, whether or not this is real? Do you think after seeing the antics of Drew McIntyre these past couple of years, right, that it's actually plausible that the situation regarding him and allegedly LA Knight should be something that should be taken seriously? Who's the third person, right, allegedly, who's upset with LA Knight? They actually said multiple people also, but I thought I seen someone said that they singled them out. But we'll just pretend the multiple people. Who's upon those multiple people in themselves, right? If it's not singling out an individual. Do you believe any of this to be the case? Like I said, I speak for myself. I can't speak for you, but let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. As always, my name is Millennial Smart, aka Devontae, and I'll be catching you fine folks later. A deuces and a P ice.